Let's get this here. Uh-huh. And this one. Huh? No.
Oh, hello, we're live.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't have audio. I don't think. Oh, there we do. There we go. Yay. Okay, so, quick announcement. First thing is that, the timer's not working. So it's very finicky. So we will have break time, and we will have... I can put the messages up for, like, break time and, like, let's do this. So we know, like, oh, we're on the sprint or whatever. But I'm not going to actually have the timers, so we're just going to have to keep track of time ourselves. And then I'll try one more time to see if I can get that working. And then the other thing is Spinning Cat is for some reason just not having a good day today. I'm not sure what to do about it. Seems like a lot of my my stuff is just not wanting to cooperate today. So, but we will persevere. So, let's go ahead and I'll start a timer here. Well, let me see if I can pull it up. Let's try one more time to see if the actual timer will go. And then, it is up. Okay, great. So somehow that's working. Spinning Cat still not happy. There he goes.
He spins about halfway.
He spins for like a second, and then he freezes, and then he decides, I don't want to do this no more. I don't know if that makes any difference. We'll see. We'll try clicking that button and see if that fixes it. Right. So I can actually get the timer going. So let me do that. Start there and do that one. And yeah, we got 15 minutes on the clock. Okay. So anything we want to chat about tonight other than like what we're reading? I guess that's a good place to start.
Start at the very beginning.
So very soon there'll be videos up on our channels about our March TBRs, which we have...
We could just not spoil it, not explain what they are till the videos come up.
I mean, we could. I was trying to keep some of these like out of the way. Hide them back here. But I will be reading How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler. This is a book that you read.
Mm-hmm. 4 stars.
4 stars for you?
Possibly upgrade to 5 stars, depending on how part 2 of the duology is.
That's okay. And I know we were talking... So, the last thing I read before this... The last book I read before this was Can't Spell Treason Without T.
Can't spell treason without T.
Which is kind of a cozy fantasy kind of thing. From the sounds of it, when we were discussing this, it seems like it is kind of lit RPG adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
So I am looking forward to it. So, but I don't know much. I don't know much other than what you've told me. Which,
yeah,
it's
like an isekai with a time loop.
Yeah, and so that will be what I'm taking a look at. You're still reading.
I'm probably gonna try to finish up my chapter in Watching TV with a Linguist,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm probably gonna bail and start How to Defeat a Demon Lord in 10 Easy Steps.
Okay, well, how is the Linguist book going? Because I know
it's fine.
I know that's what you're reading last week as well.
Yeah, because it's such an academic thing, like it doesn't like pull me back to it very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like and because it also is all like review of stuff I know.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting to read. I am enjoying it for the most part, but it is just, it's not a book that calls back to me like, oh, I gotta find out what happens next.
Yeah.
And the chapter I'm in the How I Met Your Mother chapter, and it is doing the weirdest thing where it feels like it wants to justify everything it wants to say by having to include a reference to How I Met Your Mother, which means it includes references to things like, what was I telling you last time?
Oh,
like,
yeah, it was just like
random words.
Everyday like sayings, but they had to incorporate when it was said in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, like they want to talk about, here's an example. They want to talk about how SCUBA is an acronym, right? They're trying to explain how acronyms work. That is the whole point of this paragraph. Mm-hmm. So it says, an acronym is formed by combining only the first letters of a string of words and pronouncing them as a new word. For example, in the episode The Playbook, Barney explains the strategies or plays he uses to pick up women in bars. Now, at this point, I'm thinking, oh, Barney must have made up an acronym, right?
Right.
And then they're going to explain the acronym he made up.
Right.
Each of his plays has a name, often derived from the props he needs to carry in order to play out or which persona Barney adopts, such as the scuba diver. The word scuba is an acronym formed by the first letters in self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. I'm like, I did not need a reference to How I Met Your Mother to understand how the word scuba is an acronym.
Right.
Like, some of the things in here were interesting where it talked about, like, slap bet. And being the slap bet commissioner.
Yeah.
And stringing things together like the stepped in horse poop story. Like, things that are very, like, in the text of the show, as an example. But this one seems like the person is way overcompensating in terms, like, this is the inverse problem the first chapter had with Sherlock. I felt like the Sherlock chapter would go way long and just kind of throw in a, like, oh yeah, Sherlock does this. But this one is like, everything it wants to talk about is like, oh, I can't tell you that the word destruct is a back formation of destruction without finding an episode in which the word destruct is said, despite it having nothing to do with the linguisticness of the word.
Or the episode itself.
Or the episode. They're not playing with the word in the episode. It's just a line from the show.
Yeah.
And that's not a good example.
Yeah.
That's a terrible example of how linguistics works. But this whole chapter is about word formation. And they really wanted to include examples, but they way overcompensated to the point that I'm just like, what?
Please feel free to throw your own reading journey into our comments and share. What are you reading tonight, and how far are you hoping to get through? I'm kind of hoping to get through the first 100 pages or so of my
ambitious.
Well, I mean, yeah, I could probably get close. We're doing.
I listened to that one on audiobook, so I read a little bit of it physically, but mostly I read it. I listened to the audiobook, so I don't really have a good sense of how easy it is to read.
Yeah, I have not really looked and seen how it is. Like, it doesn't look like tiny font, so I should be okay.
No, and there's footnotes on a lot of the pages.
But there is a lot. There is quite it is quite lengthy, so
it is. It's a long one. It was a long audiobook, which I think is the main reason I really wanted to pick it up on audiobook. Is, I don't know, a long book is somehow less intimidating if someone reads it to me.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of feels nice to have someone else doing the work while you kind of just read. And that also freed me up to do things like the dishes and the laundry and to do other things while I was listening to the book. So I didn't have to. And I think I started that one in December. So I think I might have started that one when I was wrapping Christmas presents.
Okay.
So I had a lot of stuff to do that just was mindless, that didn't take a lot of thought. So I could focus on my book while I just repetitively wrapped presents.
I'm currently listening to Dune on audiobook.
Right.
So I'll just try to read this one physically.
I really need to get the Batman audiobook I was listening to a year ago back and just power through it. But because now I can make a video about it. So now it wouldn't feel like quite as much of a frustration, because I can make a video about how much the author does not understand how things work.
Okay.
That was the one where they turned Arkham into a prison for the mental ill.
Okay.
And it was like weird because it was trying to be like pro mental health, but had some really weird stances. And it was a weird book.
Okay.
It did not seem to understand Gotham City or the different characters that they were using, which is unfortunate. Like, if you're going to use Batman and Alfred, and I think Harvey Dent was in there, like a young Harvey Dent. And if you're going to have all these characters in there, like, they should be recognizable. And I don't remember all the complaints I had with it. I just remember I kept having to stop the audiobook to make notes on my phone about, like, how frustrated I was with the book.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be a, like, I think it's a pre-Batman Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
I can't quite remember. It's been a long time since I picked it up. But I was deeply frustrated with it. All I remember is Bruce was in a car chase with a criminal, and he used his really expensive car to help catch the criminals. And then, oh, that's right, he gets in trouble for it. And because he has to get probation for it, they send him to work at Arkham. They, like, send him to go be a janitor in a prison.
Sure.
And I
vaguely remember you talking about this.
I'm like, this is insane. Like, you would never send someone into... And they talk about how, like, dangerous it is. And I'm like, you would never do this. This is not the kind of thing you would do parole for. And it was made even more frustrating because I think you could send someone on probation to be to help out at a mental hospital. Because mental hospitals are not inherently dangerous. Like, there might be some patients who are violent, but most are not. So it would make far more sense for him to be sent to Arkham if it was just a mental hospital. Like, before there's lots of supervillains in Gotham, so it's just a hospital. And that would actually make sense and be like, oh, it's, we're not going to send you to the East Wing because that's where the violent patients are. You don't have enough training for that, but you're going to be here helping out just the patients who just need help. And that would make sense as a form of probation. Not you're going into the super dangerous, controversial prison for your probation. Yeah. It was so strange.
I can only think of one, two, like adaptations of other media that I've read books on. I don't think I've ever read a comic book into a book adaptation.
Well, see, I read a lot of fan fiction. And this feels like a canon, like an AU fan fiction, just not very well done.
Now, a lot of the stuff I read sounds like it's like cafe fiction for fantasy settings.
Well, it's the cafe AU of a fantasy setting, yeah.
Yeah, and I've read some reviews of Can't Spell Trees Without Tea that talked about how it's very obviously a, like, fan fiction of Legends and Lattes, which I found very well. So first I was kind of dismissive of it, but then, like, there is an afterword by the author that said that they were inspired by it, and this was like a NaNoWriMo thing that they did.
Well, it being inspired by it does not make it a fan fiction of it. If you write a superhero comic, it doesn't mean you're writing fan fiction of Superman. You can take the genre and write a story set in the same genre using different characters, and it's not fan fiction of the first thing.
Yeah. I just found it interesting.
It's inspired by, but...
I just found it interesting because, like, I still feel like Legends and Lattes is fairly new, and to have this series that already has, I think, 3 books out, but it's interesting to see the, like, development, the development of the resurgence of the genre, and reminds me a bit of, like, following Shonen Jump manga, especially, and being able to see, like, this person worked under this creator, and they create, like, you can trace back from, like, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z to, like, the modern day.
Well, and that would be like calling JJK a fan fiction of Yu Yu Hakusho, because they both had those like territories and things. And I don't think that's fair. They're inspired by each other. But I feel like people throw out this is fan fiction of something to be derisive.
I do, yeah, that's definitely true, and that definitely was the vibe of that particular review.
So people throw out, oh, this is fan fiction of something to say like this is derivative. This is this is worse than the thing I like, which is really annoying because a lot of fan fiction is very good. And just because it's fan fiction doesn't mean it's like bad quality. A lot of it is, but a lot of published work are crap too. So
yeah. So like I said, it was just interesting to see that inspiration and like the further development of this. I don't know if cozy fantasy as like a genre is a new thing. Like I know lit RPG is kind of a resurgence, but lit RPG has been around since like the 80s or something like that.
That would make sense.
And so
it feels very 80s. Like I don't know how to elaborate on that more than just what I know of lit RPG does feel very 80s inspired.
Yeah, but right now it's much more popular.
Yeah. And it's changed, I'm sure, with like the RPG elements that have changed over time.
Yeah.
But I think that's, I hadn't thought of that before, but now that you've said that, I'm like, oh, there is something about lit RPG that feels very 80s. Those things go together in my head very well.
Yeah. And so I'm enjoying seeing these genres that are maybe seeing a resurgence or like getting rebranded, like the isekai genre. Like arguably that goes back to like some more like classical literature, like
Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, A Connecticut Yankee, and King Arthur's Court are all arguably isekais.
Yeah. But it's interesting seeing the development of the genre now with something like, I've been really enjoying The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventure in Another World because it is taking the formula and saying, okay, well, what if we took a character from this established genre or like model of Japanese entertainment and put it into a separate one.
So instead of just our world to video game world or fantasy world to our world, it's taking one fantasy genre to another fantasy genre.
Yeah, and you see like a lot of times the way a genre will develop is like you have a stretch of time where you're establishing the rules. So a lot of like the earlier isekais, I imagine, are human travels to fantasy world. And then the most obvious change or breakaway from that is like fantasy world person comes to our world.
What's that one movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he's in the movie
Last Action Hero?
Last Action Hero. Would that be a reverse isekai?
Yeah,
because he comes into our world.
Yeah, but
thank you for knowing what I was talking.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see the development of the genre because we're at the point now where it is going to get hopefully where we're going to play around with it and we're going to see like interesting things. I don't think we've seen a deconstruction, which I think would be very interesting. A lot of it is still like very much power fantasy. So like going into the other world is always like the coolest because now you're like the strong person who can take over. In a lot of cases, that's how the story develops.
I don't know. I feel like isekais exploded so much there very easily could be a deconstruction that we just don't know about because the genre exploded so much in Japan, was so popular that I'm not familiar with the majority of isekai titles at this point.
Yeah, and the other thing is like it's really popular with like in the self-publishing. I see a lot of like things you can get on like the Kindle and like get like little like stories that are just like not receiving a lot of attention, but if you go into those spaces it's just saturated with these story after story of these self-pub things. I know.
Okay.
I know it dinged a while ago.
Just making sure you saw it.
I wanted to talk about genre.
I know, and I wanted to finish the thought, but I wanted to make sure you saw it.
All right, so we will now switch over to our other timer. Well, actually, let's get music going and get our audio off. So let's do that first.
See you in 45 minutes.
And we're back. Yeah, alright. So, gotta start the timer. So, this one.
Timery time.
Start that. Alright, well, I'm not going to get to page 100, almost certainly. But I can probably get to about 80. I got through 40 pages.
Where are you at?
Well, so I'm the beginning of chapter 2. So all of chapter 1 was just reset after reset, getting far enough to like get into the creatures in the world are called wilders.
To get to the camp?
Yeah, it's just to get into the camp and like earn their trust. And now she's talking to them and saying like, we need to get more gear. And that's where I stopped. So,
has she already convinced them to like follow her?
And I think enough, yeah.
Oh, has she convinced them that she can... What has she convinced them of?
She seems to have convinced the leader that she has some like precognition and like
she feels that she can see the future. Okay.
And she has a destiny. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, those are the things that which I mean, to be fair, like she knows a lot about them because she's gone through many lives. Mm-hmm. But I can already see a lot of people not liking this book.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. 100%. This is not a book that will be for everybody.
Yeah. So many things about it are questionable.
I guess, are you liking it is the question?
I think it's fine. Like nothing so far has been like I don't want to read this or is terrible. I find it fun. Like it's definitely irreverent.
It's irreverent. It's crass.
Yeah, but no, it's running off. It's definitely running off of like. Again, we've talked about this a couple of times, but like maybe not lit RPG elements, because it's not like she talks about her stats or like her abilities. Like video game concepts are not part of it. Mm-hmm. But because she is reliving lives, and it seems like even though she can't remember much about her life before this, which I did really like the explanation of like, I've been doing this for like 1,000 years, like what would you remember after all that time?
What do you remember about being an infant?
Yeah. I really like that explanation, but it seems like she does have a number of like gamer and nerd instincts and knowledge. Mm-hmm. So she is frequently talking about it as with video game terms and with that understanding. Mm-hmm. And she does talk about how when she resets, you know, like the first reset she does, which is like on page 2, sends her back, I want to say like 3 years.
3 years, yeah. Something
like that. And so she does talk about how she could, these fights and these conflicts she was getting involved in would have been much easier. Mm-hmm. Like she's capable of becoming strong and becoming a fighter, and she knows how to fight and how to do these things, but currently she's in her body that just arrived from being a normal person, and so she doesn't have the speed, she doesn't have the strength, she doesn't have the endurance. And so while stats are not like a known thing, it's still clear that there's like a progression thing to it. It's just much more realistic.
Partly,
just leveling up.
And you've found out about the what are they called? The magic rocks.
She gives them a name. They're just they're this is another thing I enjoy, is like they're literally just translated as magic rock. Yeah. But she has a name for them.
Yeah, she gives the kingdom name for them.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I'll try to find it.
And those help her increase
Thawmite.
The Thawmite stones help her increase her stats as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like they explained like how the different colors work.
She's explained at least green, because I think that's all she had access to, and she has very little of it.
Yeah, that's all she's eaten so far.
She said with like a fist-sized amount, she could like reattach an arm.
Mm-hmm.
But currently she had like dust, basically.
Yeah, she has like really small pieces.
She said she could like maybe fend off a cold or something right now. So it's nothing. She didn't have anything remarkable.
But that does play a role as she goes, is like determining what Thawmite which of the Thawmite she has access to, what she should take to improve her chances, and also how long that Thawmite is going to take to have an effect.
Yeah. So I'm liking it so far. Like I said, I definitely feel like it's almost certainly isekai. Although again, I like the idea that like she's not sure.
It's an isekai, but so far into the story that it doesn't have. It misses a lot of the beats you get in an isekai because you're picking up after she's been doing this for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So you miss a lot of the time travel tropes. You miss a lot of the isekai tropes. You're basically picking up like Groundhog Day if it started after he'd done the loop 1,000 times.
Yeah. But yeah, so I get the isekai vibes, but like you're saying, it's different, which is nice. And I'm also getting like the lit RPG vibes, but not as explicit as a lot of the lit RPG.
I was going to say a little less direct with the like.
And I don't know. I'm a fan of lit RPG because of generally because of the characters finding clever things to do within like the confines of the rules of their world. Like the one you're reading. How far have you gotten? What have you learned about the
we
main
have
character?
we have just increased our bag mage skill.
Yeah. Okay. So
to level 100.
So you know that like they're going bag mage.
Yeah.
Which is like the stupidest thing, but like, have they done anything clever with it yet?
I'm on page 20, so I feel like I can talk about things fairly freely.
Yeah.
It's clear that they are trying to get the hero's sword by being able to place it in their inventory. But they needed to level up their skill to put it in their inventory. So all they've done this far is just like math out how to efficiently up their skill by just pulling things in and out of their inventory all day, because that doesn't take mana. So they could just for hours, and they said it took a year of just putting things in and out of their inventory whenever they had free time, just like putting things in and out of the inventory to up their stats.
Yeah.
So they haven't really done anything yet, but they did go to the shrine where the hero's sword is, and tried to put the sword in their inventory, and it said that their skill wasn't high enough yet, not that they couldn't do it.
Yeah, so it's things like that though, where like a lot of the lit RPGs, they will give the characters like a class or an ability that sounds completely pointless, like completely weak. And a lot of the fun of those stories is seeing, okay, how do they deal with they're this race or they're this class that is awful or has some sort of like utility that doesn't seem like it would be very useful, and they play around with they play around with it to become stronger.
Well, it's like min-maxing in a video game or in a tabletop RPG. It's taking that weird class that you're like, oh, if I did this and this, I could do something really interesting. Like when you created the character that could go as fast as humanly possible.
Oh yeah, Fast E-Boy.
Fast E-Boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Where you figured out like exactly how many levels you had to take of different classes. And so that you could get different feats. Like the most efficient way to get all the speed increasing feats.
Yep.
Choosing the race that was the fastest, the base things that were the fastest. Yeah.
Yeah.
So It's like that.
Yeah.
And like that's very like gamer intuitive of like, oh, I'm gonna pick these things that don't seem like they go together but have a very specific purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I like about it. And I can already see, again, not with stats and numbers like a lot of the lit RPGs will do, which is not really why I'm reading them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really care if they go into, like, numbers and stats and, like, figures and things.
Yeah, I found that very not compelling. I don't know. Like, adding the, like, messages about leveling up seems so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it was just written as a fantasy story where someone realizes they could do this and did it without the weird, like, you have leveled up messages, I think I would enjoy it more.
Mm-hmm.
It's really off-putting to put in this artifice of, like, which I get that that's the appeal of, like, it's like a video game. Mm-hmm. But, like, it's really weird to me.
I feel like it's definitely clunkier.
It's really clunky.
I feel like it's definitely clunkier in this than it was in Dungeon Crawler Carl or Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon.
Yeah, this does feel a little clunky. But that might also just be the skill of the writer.
But Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon also goes, like, deep into, like, the lore of the game and he is basically what is it? Sword Art Online.
Okay.
Where he's in the real world, but he's in a video game where, like, now pain and everything is simulated for him.
And see, I don't think I would mind that if it was a video game. Uh-huh. Whereas this is just, the world just happens to work exactly like a video game. Yeah. And I guess everyone has an AI, a magical AI in their head.
Yeah, and this one doesn't bother to, I remember this one bothering to explain it all. It's just like, that's the way the world is, and everybody knows that this works that way.
And it just has to do a lot of info dumping to tell you this is how the world works. But also, there's no way that if this is how the world works, that this character is the first person to ever have sat down and gone, how do I efficiently rank up my class? There would be tons of research on this in this world. There's no way this is the first person to ever go, what's the most efficient thing to pull in and out of my inventory to up my skill faster?
I guess. But also it seems one that's, like, kind of locked in this cyclical conflict of, like, just waiting for the hero. So maybe people just don't bother.
But, like, it just seems like that is something, especially with Bag Mage being a very utilitarian class, you would want to up that skill as fast as possible so you could make money. Yeah. Because you're useless at the beginning of being a Bag Mage. You can't get jobs carrying stuff around. So I feel like there would be scholarship on this.
So I recommended this one because for you because it's shorter and because it's more like Zelda themed.
Yeah.
But I will say that Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon does do a better job of, like, setting up why it's a video game.
It's just this big. So.
Yeah, and then Dungeon Crawler Carl
is also this big.
But, like, it sets it up in a very different way.
Yeah, I know the premise of that one. Yeah,
it's like aliens set up this, like, tournament thing.
So at least the artifice has explanation in those two.
Yeah.
In this one where it's just the world is a video game now, it's a little weird. Yeah. And, like, having this idea that, like, things just appear, in, like, you just get an interface in front of your face for no reason. It's just magical goddesses, I guess, is a little clunky.
Yeah. Solo Leveling does this as well, I think.
Oh, does it?
Where, like, he just, like, gets a thing that pops up and, like, tells him to do things. But I think he's equally as confused about it.
Did we ever find out this person's name?
I don't remember.
It's bugging me.
I don't remember their name, so maybe not.
Okay, yeah, their name is Yui. It's on the back of the book.
They've not said it
They've not said their name in 20 pages, and it took several pages to even find out that the narrator was a girl. Which was very, like, I knew it because I'd read the back, but I was like, nothing in this has told me that who this person is. Okay. It was very blank slate. Which, again, is, unfortunately, I feel, a skill of the writer issue. Like, they're just not going to bring up the person's name until they have a reason for them to introduce themselves. Yeah. But, like, as a reader, you want that connection. Mm-hmm. And there's very little to connect with at the moment. Mm-hmm. So I do feel it's a skill issue of the author, but it's not like unreadable or anything.
Yeah, I do look back and I feel like this one is probably the weakest writing, but I still had fun with it.
Do you remember what you gave it?
I mean, I think probably 4.
Okay.
I don't know. It was also like one of my first forays into like lit RPG, and I really liked the setup.
And I could see the beginning of this being very clunky as we have to get all this stuff out of the way to get into the like story they actually wanted to tell. Mm-hmm. And so like the second half of the book could be a lot stronger than where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I'm not like writing the whole thing off, but this beginning has been a little clunky.
Yeah, I give it 4.
Okay.
There's another one that's out. That's another one that's like kind of goofy, and I think self-published, called Trials of the Necromancer, and it's a like
the cat one.
It's a little cat one. Yeah.
Where did we? I saw that too. Where did we see that?
I mean, I probably showed you.
Probably.
But there was something that was on YouTube, I'm sure, that was talking about it. But again, it's one of these like myriad of self-published ones that I assume is going to be more like this, but it just looked cute.
Yeah.
So.
Nope, I don't remember what I was going to ask you. Must not be important. Where did you find this book? That's what I was going to ask.
I feel like there was maybe a list or like a recommendation thing talking about lit RPG, and that was one of them. And because they talked about like the Zelda connection,
that's why you picked it up.
I was like, okay, cool, yeah. And I remember it being one that was more difficult to come by because again, it is self-published.
It's self-published.
So it's not something that was just like available at Barnes and Noble, which is going to be something I'm going to have to figure out because I'm trying to buy less from Amazon and trying to buy more from actual bookstores. So I'm wondering how am I going to get a hold of books like this.
Well, the problem is with self-publishing, you really can't. Because a lot of self-published authors have to sign exclusive deals with Amazon. Daniel Green just did a big thing on this. Okay. In order to get decent royalties. Or, like, if you sign exclusive with Kindle, this isn't true for print. So print you might be able to buy elsewhere. But it's true for ebooks and audiobooks. I'll cut that short. Okay. But it isn't usually true for print books. But Amazon is trying to get into print books with print on demand for these more self-published authors. Yeah. And so they're trying to get a further monopoly in that space. Yeah. And self-published authors don't really have a lot of options.
That's
at the moment. So that self-published, but your best bet is probably going to be to look at the author's website. But they might even be printing their stuff print on demand from Amazon.
That's how I got Mushroom Blues.
Yeah.
I was going straight through their website.
But if the author is using print on demand from Amazon to print their own books, like you're still getting it from Amazon.
Yeah.
It just depends on how they are self-publishing.
Yeah. All right. Back to reading.
Less yapping, more reading.
And we're back for our last chat for the night. How you doing with your book?
Page 40.
Page 40, okay. So you got about 20 pages each go? Well, and you were reading.
I read that one, so I got more done in the first sprint. But also, like, this book starts on, like, page 10.
Okay.
It starts on page 8, but yeah, so...
I got to 72. So 73. I'm like partway through. I'm like in the middle of a scene, so I'm definitely gonna like get to a break, but I don't think I'm gonna get to the end of the chapter. Chapters are long in this book.
They are very long.
Like a lot happens.
But there are a lot of breaks within the chapter.
Yeah, I was noticing that too, which is
so
nice.
So there are good stopping points. But yeah, I remember when I was listening to the audiobook, it was like, oh my god, this chapter is so long.
Yeah. So yeah, they got gear.
I'm worried about the length of chapters in this book because I'm already on chapter 5 of a 10-step plan. Like here's chapter 6. So how long are these chapters going to get later?
I can't quite remember how it breaks down. I feel like toward the end it gets like we get off track a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to get super long.
But
go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just saying they got gear, and now they are interacting with this larger tribe and trying to impress them. Although they sound equally dangerous.
The red teeth. Red tooth.
Red tooth. Because yeah, she talks about how you pluralize it as red tooths because you don't...
they all have it's one red tooth. Not
well, yeah. She also like states when you pluralize, you don't like it was actually really funny because it was like linguistic.
Yeah, it's like grammar stuff.
Yeah. That was a footnote. When you pluralize a proper name, you don't treat it as an irregular noun. It's just like okay, sure. So yeah, they're on like their next little step of the journey. So
they have they're slime hunting.
As you do.
Yes, to gain experience.
And
they have gained a lot of experience very quickly.
Yeah. So, still enjoying it?
Yeah.
You're noticing a number of things I did not even notice.
Because you're not the Zelda fan like I am. Like the goddess's name is Leah, which is obviously short for Hylia. The goddess of one of the goddesses in Zelda.
Sure.
And then I was like, why did they name them Yui and Ken? I was like, that's such a weird thing. And then I was like, HIJKL and XYZ. Oh, we just went with the letters right before Link and Zelda. to get Ken and Yui.
Do you think they wrote it as Link and Zelda and then went back and was like, and we're like, oh, let's just change this one to a K name and we'll change this one to a Y name?
No, I have a feeling that was done from the beginning because Zelda games don't have this kind of a class system.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that was added on to be like, what if D&D but Zelda?
Mm-hmm.
Or what if very complicated RPG but Zelda?
Are we horribly jittery like it's showing on our stream here? Because we're looking really...
Oh, maybe a little?
We're looking really janky.
Oh yeah, we are. We are real janky.
I wonder how long that's been going on.
Yeah, you are like, yeah.
Okay.
Were you moving like this?
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, we are definitely.
Let me see if I can. Let's see if this does something.
Our audio's fine.
Yeah, it might just be. No, there's something. Something more than just like. Let's try doing this. Let's try doop. And then doop. Did that do anything? No, but still. Man. That's why we can't have nice things. I wonder what the issue is, because it looks fine over here.
Yeah.
It looks fine on our camera, but not over here. Here it looks janky.
Something with the streaming.
I'm sure. Alright, well, I mean, we're on our last little break, so let's just chat about our thoughts and things, and then we'll call it a night. And I don't feel like it was doing that the whole stream. I feel like this is
Well, it's better now. It's not nearly as janky as it was just a second ago.
Oh, here's hoping.
Like, it's better, but not great. I don't know.
So a number of Zelda references, but you don't think it was actually written as...
No, I think we just decided to set it in Zelda world, and we're definitely using the idea of the cycle of the hero.
Yeah.
That is clearly Zelda inspired. Mm-hmm. We have the very clear references of like the bad ending hero.
Mm-hmm. You said the water temple.
And the water temple.
Yeah. Which
is a reference. Like there's one of the, I don't know how familiar you are with the Zelda timeline.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So like the attempt to fit all of the Zelda games into one timeline is actually like a branch with then 3 different branches. Mm-hmm. And one of them, one of those is the bad end timeline, where Link loses. Uh-huh. And so, like, they called it the bad end hero. Yeah. And then they mentioned the water temple, which is, like, notorious from Ocarina of Time for being notoriously tedious and difficult to do. Because of the way, partially because of the way you had to equip and unequip the iron boots to, like, do the water puzzles was just very tedious. So yeah, that's like...
I think I've seen like sped up video of someone doing it. It still seemed like it took a really long time.
I feel like I didn't play Ocarina of Time, but my friends who were, I feel like had to have a guide for it because it was so tedious and difficult that it was just so much more convenient to do with a guide.
I feel like there was a temple in Final Fantasy X that was similar, where if you didn't have a guide, you were not going to get everything because it had platforms. Mm-hmm. It had moving platforms. You had to like move them up and down, and like certain things were accessible when they were in certain locations. Mm-hmm. And then
it's kind of like the water temple because it's all about raising and lowering the water level, and then like sinking down through the water with your boots, and then going back up, and yeah.
Okay. Are you enjoying it still?
It's fine. Right now if I like I would give it a 3. It's feeling like a 3.
Okay.
It's not my main complaint with it. Again, it feels more like it should be a video game that people have like gotten trapped into than like a world. Mm-hmm. Because again, it's like, oh, I wasn't sure. There are times when she's like, oh yeah, I know all about silver slimes and how their experience works. Like, this is a common thing in the world. But I don't know how leveling up my dimensional magic will work. And I'm like, that's something you should know. That's something that should be equally accessible to figure out. If you know that silver slimes give you lots of experience and gold, and, like, you know the abilities, what the abilities of a slime tracker are, like, you should know. And then, like, she didn't know that her ability only worked on melee weapons.
Okay.
Which also seemed weird. Like, she knew what they did, but she didn't know it only worked on melee weapons.
Okay.
And then she's like, I can't even use a sword. And I'm like, but why? Like, this isn't a video game. Why can't you just go and pick up a sword? What is the artifice of this world that stops you from using a sword? You would think if carrying around a bag for 8 years is how you unlocked this class, you would think she'd be able to swing a sword around for a while to unlock sword fighting skills. That seems like what the other guy did, how he unlocked Sword Saint, was just by waving a sword around a lot. So it's just weird for her to be like, oh, I can't even use a sword. It's like, why not? Like, you wouldn't be any good at it, but you should be able to use a sword.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain RPGs, though, where, like, if you're a certain class, you just cannot even... Yeah, but you want the in-world...
I want it to make sense.
Okay.
And, like, it's like, oh, well, now I can equip these kinds of armor. And I'm like, okay, but why? Like, because the video game tells you can. Like, when there's an artifice of it being a game where certain things are available or unavailable because you are in a game, it makes sense. For it to just be how the world works is very strange. So I don't really feel like that is quite working in terms of, like, immersion. It just keeps breaking me off with going, but why though?
But still a 3. So
yeah, it's still
okay.
Fine. It's not. Nothing has been so offensively bad or anything that I'm like, oh, I don't want to read this. Like, it's fine. But I am just annoyed by some of the choices. And unfortunately, because this is a completely made-up class system, you can't predict anything. Like, I couldn't have predicted that she was going to unlock Slime Hunter as a class. Because Slime Hunter is not a class in most things. She references bards and fighters and rangers and uses some of the things from those, like talks about how rangers can can track and specialize in a monster. But, like, in D&D, there is no class of slime hunter. Or you could be a ranger who specialized in slimes, I guess.
Right.
But the only thing that I'm like, oh, the only annoying thing here is I can't predict. I can't extrapolate, like, oh, what could I do that was clever? Because I don't understand the rules.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I think we've reached the part of the stream where it is shameless self-promotion time.
Shameless self-promotion time.
So, on both of our channels right now, we have 2 games, really 4 games, of book connections. So we took 16 books, and just like the New York Times game of connections, we set them out on the table. We had to arrange them into groups of 4. It's a lot of fun. So I encourage you, if you are someone who enjoys games and gaming and books and just wants to like play along with us at home, to check out those videos. Down in the corner here, down in the corner here, we have our upcoming streams. So next week is going to be a productivity stream, because I'd really like to get back onto the dinosaur library that I've been working on, which is like images right here. Wow. Really cool dinosaur library. Lots of books to put together. And I've made a little bit more progress on that off camera, but I want to take next week to do that. And then The 15th I've put for reading sprints, and we will keep you posted on that. That's my plan at the moment. But that's actually when spring break starts, which I know is not a thing for 90% of anybody, but it is a thing for me. So we'll have to see. There might be more that week, or there might be less because we might be traveling. I don't know. But yeah. I figured we could at least do our usual Saturday night reading sprints. So if you're looking for another night or another day to...
the 15th?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the end of spring break.
No, that's the beginning of...
No, that's the end.
No. Is it really?
Uh-huh.
Let me look.
We can talk about this upstream.
You would think I would know this.
I would think.
Yeah. All right. Any shameless self-promotion for you?
My channel is Amanda Should Be Reading. Check it out.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely check out our channels. I plan on doing a review for Can't Spell Trees Without T soon.
I need to do more. I need to work on my reviews, yeah.
We have our March Madness videos coming up, which are our TBRs for March. And then I'm not sure. I am also wanting to do a bookmark tag soon. I was missing one bookmark.
But we found
very, very important bookmark, and I found it, so now we can do that as well. So, with all that out of the way, sign off just saying I hope your reading journey is going well. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, help us grow this corner of our booktube community. If you're watching the VOD, please give us some love and give us a thumbs up so we know to make more of these in the future. Anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, until the next one, take care.
Bye.